Hello everybody and welcome to my video number 6 in the EFT series, and this one I'm going to do about grief. Well, first I was going to do a video for my mum because she likes to tap along these videos and she's got issues with her eyes. Her eyes are troubling her, and so I thought, okay, well, let me make a video for her specifically for the eyes. And I asked her a few questions, and these questions are very good for asking people to be as specific about their issues as possible. So I asked her, well, if there was an emotion behind it all, what would it be? What color? What size? Where would you feel it in the body? Or is it out of the body? All the best ways to describe how she feels all these things behind. She's worried she might not be able to see as well, so what are the fears behind it? But my mum just said, oh, I don't think my eyesight's got anything to do with my emotional state. And also she lost a friend. It's not, my mum is now in her mid-80s, so sadly a lot of her friends are doing. I think it's very sad at that time when you see that a lot of your friends are going and you feel more and more on your own and alone. And so I have instead decided to make a video on grief, as I myself have lost a third friend in the space of, quite close friend, in a space of just 2 months, and her funeral is on next week. So I have decided I would do a video on grief. And also in my family, people have been unable to really grieve, to allow themselves to feel the loss, the sadness, and their way of dealing with that was to put it to one side. They thought, well, if I don't think about it and I concentrate on doing positive things, it'll just go. But what they've been actually doing is that on a conscious level, they thought they were going to a place of love, but on the subconscious level, they were stuck in the fight and flight response. The subconscious mind would constantly keep on repeating these kind of stressful things or images in their mind about the grief, about the loss of a loved one. And that has been in my family for many, many years, that they would not allow themselves to feel this loss. And another common thing in families can be is sometimes they are not telling exactly how that has happened, especially to children, because they think that they are trying to protect the children, when in actual fact for the children they are just instilling more of these kind of fearful responses in their children, in their subconscious mind. So it's also almost 3 years since I have lost my husband, and when I only spoke to him 3 weeks before he died, that was the last time I spoke to him on the phone, because I myself was extremely ill and I did not have the energy to give him a call, and I didn't really think he was going to die. It just happened also suddenly. And the last time we spoke was about 3 weeks before he died, and he phoned me, and it was just in the new year, and it was not a very happy conversation. So sometimes we feel very bad if a person dies and we were unable to kind of leave them in this kind of harmonious state, and instead the way we depart is in this state. And that's why I always believe it is good for all of us to always be on very happy, loving terms with everybody, because we never know what is going to happen next day. And you know, I was very sad that I left my husband, or that he left, with our final conversation not being a very happy one. Also, no one has told me, none of the nurses in my hospital or have told me, because again they were trying to protect me, nobody told me that actually the nurses have decided to stop all the medication and that they would let my husband to die. So you know, there was a lot of sadness about it for me. But you know, I know that we are all energy, that there is only changes in energy, and the fact the person dies does not necessarily mean they're no longer with us. Maybe not in the physical way, but you know, I've been since, you know, not having talks with my husband, but feeling him and really sending him love, and you know, kind of make peace with him. And I think I have achieved that, even though I do know that my illness is still connected to issues of grief, and that grief is something that I have kind of been trying to repress, like the family has been doing. So when my father died 22 years ago, I was here in the UK on my own. I didn't know many people, just my husband and a few of his family members. And my mum phones one day that Dad died, and my sons were both under 18 months, and I kind of said to myself, well, I can't allow myself to fall to pieces, because then who will look after the children? I was very close to my dad, so his death was an extreme shock to me. And so I do know that there are still issues of grief all these years back, all these 22 years, there's still issues of grief. And also what happens is that if we repress this grieving and we don't allow ourselves to grieve for the loss of a loved one, one day in the future something else will happen, and it will trigger us into feelings of desperation, depression, or whatever, and we might not even realize that actually this goes all the way back to the time when we lost our loved ones and we did not allow ourselves to grieve for that person. So that is how we would be getting all the fight or flight responses in our body, and if something else happens, it will trigger all that again. And that is why I'm now trying to deal with the loss of my dad as well, and trying to allow myself to grieve, because there's no set limit to how long we should be grieving. It all is up, you know, it's all very individual. And also people often don't know what to say to someone who has lost a loved one. One of the reasons is because we all fear death in a way, and we all find it very painful. So people will say things like, oh, time is the best healer, or oh, I have lost a loved one, so I know what you are going through. But the thing is that nobody exactly knows what it's like for us. We're all very individual. So saying actually, oh, I know what you're going through because I went through a loss, that's not one of the most helpful of responses. So let's go back to the tapping so I can show you an example of what you can tap on. As I said, the more specific you can be about your grief, the better it is. So where do you feel it in the body? You know, has it got any color? All these things, the more specific you are about expressing the grief, the better the healing from that grief. So I'll go and show you an example of the setup. Again, your words are the best. Say how you are feeling it in your best words. These setups I show you are just examples, but they will work nevertheless, no matter what. So if you tap with me, it will help. Also, if you watch me, that will work too. As I explained earlier, it's the mirroring of the neurons which helps. And also, there's no need for people to believe, even though if you're unable to express or feel it, then it's not going to be as effective. Like, I myself have never been able to feel much due to the fact that my family has been, or I learned to repress all my feelings. So when I go to try to do some EFT sessions, I try to really take a deep breath and really try to see what it is, and it doesn't always come up to me straight away, and that's okay too. So I just continue tapping on the more general terms, so, and then feel what will come after. So if we come with the more general terms, so even though I feel this deep loss, there's this sadness for me losing my dad all these 22 years ago. I feel so much on my own. How dare my dad die all of a sudden, as he had either a heart attack or a stroke. I think he had a stroke, so it all just came all of a sudden, and he wasn't that old, and I only spoke to him the day before, and there were no indications that he would drop dead the next day. So even though I feel this deep loss for you, my dad, I do love and accept myself anyway. Even though I feel this sadness for the loss of my dad, who just left so suddenly, I wasn't able to say goodbye to him, I love and accept myself anyway. So this loss, this grief, this sadness, this grief, I feel so on my own. This grief, this loss, this grief, this sadness, this grief, this loss, there's so much sadness, this loss, this grief. So what we were doing is we were saying out these words aloud, so we were able to tune in to access basically that. And as we are tapping on that loss, sadness, we are slowly going to be able to change that to a loving response. So I'll take a deep breath. And how do I feel that loss? I feel it as a lot of darkness. Yeah, a little bit like this. That darkness, but without any light. It's just a blackness all over. I feel it like a lot of blackness everywhere. And you know, I'm on my own, and also the illness which I've got, I get so ill for many months, and I feel so isolated and so on my own, and the depression and the feelings of helplessness are just incredible. So in my next round of tapping, I will go to what I felt, and I felt this horrible blackness. Everywhere is just black. There's no light. It's just all this. I'm surrounded by this darkness, and there is no hope. I feel helpless and hopeless. So I'll tap on that, and the feelings are about on a level of 0, nothing. 10 is it's as worst as it can be. It's about 8, which is quite high. So even though I feel all this darkness, all this blackness around, and I'm so much on my own, and I'm really desperate, I'm so distressed, feelings of hopelessness, helplessness, all this blackness, and it feels like I'm sinking in it, and it's like all this black like asphalt, and I'm just in it, and I'm just drowning in it. All this feeling of drowning. So even though I've got all this feeling of blackness and all this depression, I love and accept myself anyway. Even though I'm sinking and drowning in this black yucky asphalt and I can't catch my breath, I love and accept myself anyway. Even though these are my feelings of grief and loss and sadness, I accept the way things are. So this blackness, I'm drowning in this black asphalt. I cannot breathe. All this feeling of helplessness, hopelessness, all this grief, all this sadness coming to the surface, feelings of helplessness. I feel hopeless. Will I ever get out of that asphalt? This black asphalt. This black asphalt. I'm just drowning in it. Well, the feeling has come down to about 5 or 6. So the intensity of my grief, of my depression, of my feelings of helplessness has come down. And you could continue tapping till you bring it down to as low as possible. And what I will do now is, as I know I still have a lot of work to do and I might stay here hours, which would not be good for you. I want to make it as short as possible. What I saw there as I was stepping and I saw myself in this black asphalt and darkness, I saw an angel of light. An angel of light. And the angel was saying to me, you're not on your own. You think you are, but you're not. So I will finish this stepping on a positive note, and I will just step on this angel of light that is giving me hope and energy to help me overcome these issues, and saying you're not on your own. That's only what your mind is telling you, and you've been living with this for so many years. You've been repeating all this thing, oh, I'm on my own, there is no help. But there is help, and there is light, and this angel of light is bringing me more love. And so I will tap on that as the last round of tapping. So it's always good to finish your tapping on a positive note, even though you haven't managed to bring the intensity of your negative emotions or feelings all the way down to 0. It will happen, but you just need to tap a bit more. And sometimes it's not possible to do it in an hour of tapping, so we can just leave it there, come back to it, but it's good to tap on something positive at the end. So I'll just tap. I won't be doing the setups anymore. I'll just be saying angels of light, angel of light, this angel of light, and the angel is bringing me hope and also love. There is this love, this loving feeling. You know, there are other people helping me. Not just people, but the angels too, because we can ask the angels for help. And I'm only just learning to do that myself, because if we don't ask, the angels can't help. So I'm acknowledging now that the angels are around, probably here, and you've got your own angels, we all do, and they're all helping. And it can just be love, and this light, healing light, love, this angel of light. So I'll leave this video here today on a positive of this angel of light and hope and healing and love. And I look forward to seeing you during my next video. Bye now.